Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to Meet the Author session with author Smita Das Jain. This session is hosted by the Himalayan Book Club, which is a Himalayan Writing Retreat initiative. Himalayan Book Club was born purely out of our love for the written word. We aim to bridge the gap between the authors and the readers. To become a member, you can visit our website, himalayanwritingretreat.com. I'm Namrata, the Digital and Outreach Coordinator at the Himalayan Writing Retreat. Today, we will be in conversation with debut author Smita Das Jain. Smita is the author of A Slice of Life. Every person has a story, and we are proud to say she's also an HWR alumna. A Slice of Life is an anthology or collection of short stories. It went on to become an Amazon bestseller soon after its release. As the blurb of the book says, every human wears a mask. Behind the cheerful facade lies faith, hope, trust, love, despair, confidence, insecurity, it all. Everyone has a story. A dink couple finding work from home a challenge, the couple who wasn't one, a rigid person who deviates from a lifelong habit, two people who remain in touch for 35 years without talking, a daughter who has sacrificed her dreams for her mother, a fictional potpourri of extraordinary narratives of ordinary people who have more to their everyday lives beneath the surface. These stories reflect myriad hues of human behavior. Smita's book, A Slice of Life, is available for review exclusively for the book club members. In case you have not joined it yet, you can do so through the link. Smita Jain's short fiction debut, The Lost Identity, was published in February 2021. She's a writer by passion and writes every single day. Samples of her writing are visible in the surroundings around her, her home office, her sunny terrace garden, her husband's car, and the kitchen napkins. She loves writing contemporary stories with a twist, and her works have been published on Story Mirror, Penmanship, and Women's Web. In another world, when she's not writing, Smita is a personal empowerment and executive coach, enabling people to become a better version of themselves. She's also a strategy professional with more than 14 years of experience working in leadership roles at Fortune 500 companies. She's an IIM Indore and SRCC alumna. Smita lives with her rockstar husband and her adorable 11-year-old daughter at their home in Gurgaon. Without much ado, let's welcome Smita to the session. Welcome, Smita. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Namrata. It's an absolute pleasure. HWR has played a significant role in my writing journey, so I'm indeed glad to be here.
That's so kind of you to say that, Smita. So let's begin the session by listening to something about you. What do you do when you're not writing?
Okay, so you sort of actually, when you introduced me, you sort of mentioned that. So I am actually a strategy professional, leadership roles with Fortune 500 companies, advising clients in India as well as abroad on their strategies. For the past 6 months, I am, running my own coaching business. So I am now a personal empowerment and executive life coach. I essentially advise mid-career professionals on how to create a career they love, find time for all that they like, and live the life they choose. So, that's my passion, helping people become a better version of themselves. And when I'm not coaching, then I'm writing. So that's how life is.
That's actually a very interesting thing to do. So how did your writing journey start? How did it come to the point of writing this debut book of yours called A Slice of Life?
Okay. Actually, it's been a long journey. The way because the screen has sort of frozen, so I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah. Actually, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we can hear you. Your voice was breaking.
Oh, okay. Okay, the network seems to be quite fine at my end. But yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, yeah. So as I said, right when I was in school, my father actually instilled in me a passion for writing, reading, in fact. And that's how, while reading, I started to pen those articles and stories. And as I was mentioning, I ghostwrited an article for my brother. And eventually in high school, I was the editor of my school magazine. Then I was the editor of my college magazine. I used to write and edit. And then somehow, when I entered that professional world, because being an alum from the top notch colleges in the country like SRCC and IIM, so you kind of, get away from the creative side. At least that's what happened to me. So I wrote, but it was more of business articles. So I was, as a consultant and as a leader, I was penning articles on some industries, thought leaderships, even those content articles, the thought leadership articles in certain industries. And the creative side of me took a back seat. Then sometime in 2018, on a whim, actually, I joined a creative writing course with the Stanford University. And that's when, and we are talking about, the time zone difference. I used to, after work, I used to stay up at 3 a.m. at nights to attend those courses via Zoom. And I'm talking about a time when Zoom was not as mainstream as it is today. Back in 2018, few people had heard about Zoom. So that's how, but that course gave me a lot of exposure. One, the faculty was great. Second, there are people all around the world, and everyone had different styles of writing. And that's when I realized that writing is more than grammar or syntax or getting that sentences right. It's actually letting your imagination run wild and put all that out and later give it a structure. So I joined another course at Stanford pertaining to writing after the creative writing course. And that's when, again, regularly I started to pen pieces, mostly stories. So I was anyway penning articles, but that was in my professional capacity then. That's when I started to write stories. But then it was again a slow process, because with job, obviously, you tend to give your passions a backseat. And that's what happened. But then, when I started to circulate those stories amongst my friends and close friends and circles, I got a feedback on some of them that they're really good and you ought to get them published. And so that's how, that idea came. Okay, if somebody is saying seriously that they are good, maybe I should give it a try. And but again, from 2018, it actually took till 2020 when I had some pieces, and I didn't have time to go after publishers. Back then I didn't even know what self-publishing was all about. And then suddenly one day I read about Amazon Kindle, the Kindle Direct Publishing, and I realized, okay, there is something called self-publishing. And that's when, sometime in February this year, I mean, I already had a short fiction and I had really gotten great journey of discovering how to publish on Kindle, how to self-publish on Kindle, how does that work. So one fine day, I think it must have been a weekend, because weekdays was busy with work. So, I logged into Amazon. I explored, how to basically self-publish on Kindle. And since I had the manuscript ready, the next thing I know, in a couple of hours, it was actually live on Kindle. So that's how the Lost Identity came about. So it was more of an experiment in a journey to discover how to do self-publishing. And once that came, and of course, since it was an experiment, I really didn't, market it as such. That was not at all the intention. But once I discovered that word, and people who read it, again, I mean, of course, earlier there were 5 people who read it. Now, after it was there, within a month, there were 50 people who had read The Lost Identity. And the sort of feedback that I got and everything, and I realized, okay, I should take this. By then, I had discovered that writing is something that was also therapeutic for me. So, I didn't feel complete till I write something. That's how, it started to happen. And then I'm like, okay, let me, one has to be, as a leader, basically, that's what I had always advised my team. And that's what I believe. You have to be consistent at something. You need not necessarily be the best, but if you stay consistently at something, you will definitely get better every day. And you won't even realize when those incremental efforts leads to a transformation and you are eventually the best version of themselves. So that's why I thought that, since April of this year, I have been writing every day. Not a single day has gone when I'm not written. And, when I put in that effort to write every day, then, pieces started to flow out. And I had content. And by then I discovered platforms like Story Mirrors and Penmancy, where, we can publish even short stories and get feedback and reach out to readers. So that's how basically, it's sort of, early in my formative years, it sort of started. Then I lost touch with it. Then I rekindled the passion. And then eventually, I would say after the discovery of Kindle, I found a way to reach out. And yeah, because I'm consistent, I write every day. So the stories come about. And when I had a collection, I realized, okay, the feedback that I'm getting, maybe it's time for me to come out with a proper book rather than a short fiction.
That's actually very impressive to say, Smita. I remember I had attended a workshop with an international author. I can't recollect their exact name. But even he said that, when you sit every day, I treat writing like my shop. If you own a business, you have to open the shutter and you have to sit. You don't know whether you'll have business, you'll make a sale, whether a customer will come or not come. So every day I sit on the desk, I open the shutter and I'm like, I invite my muse, please come. So the day she decides to come, I have a great business that day, but otherwise I still wait in the hope that she'll come and she'll bless me so that I can write. So, I can actually relate to that when you talk about it like this. So moving on to our next question, what inspired this collection? A slice of life. Every person has a story. Was it your corporate job experiences? Was it your commuting? What did inspire this?
So, I told you about those pieces that I penned in the interim
Yeah.
back on those days. And it really seems a lot of time to it isn't when I wasn't writing every day. So, Lost Identity, if I'm not sure if you've read it, but it's entirely based abroad. It was intended for the setting was such that it was for an international audience. And mostly, through my formative years, I have been reading international authors. It's only much later now that, I started to discover Indian authors. So the thing is, okay, so after Lost Identity, I again penned 2-3 short fictions, which are up there in Story Mirror. The setting was all international. Okay. And one of the readers actually reached out and gave me the feedback for one of these stories that the story is great, but I couldn't relate because, everything, I think that story was based in England. So everything, how can I relate to something that is happening in Kent and all? Because ultimately, I'm here in India. So don't you, do you write stories based in India? Okay. So that's when, it struck me, okay, like as a reader, even if the stories are good, it should relate. Okay.
Yeah.
Until then, I had not written a single story which is, based in an Indian setting. Challenge that, okay, let me, now set my stories in India. But how to find inspiration? I mean, somehow, for settings in abroad and everything, inspirations came naturally. For here in India, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I started to imagine something, but then, when I started to put it down, I realized that the idea has not come out on paper the way I wanted. And then I realized, okay, let me leave my imagination. Actually, let me think about, I have met many people in my life. See, I come from a defense background. My dad was in the Indian Army. So I've traveled all over the country, my childhood and even in my job in because I was in consulting, I've traveled all over the country. I've traveled to 15 countries abroad till now, and I've met a lot of people. So and I have a good memory. So there are a lot of characters, their nuances, there's those quickiness. So there's a lot of characters, and I thought, okay, and that is how the first story, which had an Indian setting, okay, and I'm like, okay, let me think about a character. And okay, let me think about another character. I mean, real characters I'm talking about. Let me mix them up. So when you combine two characters, it becomes a third and entirely new character, which is fictional. And now let me think, okay, what are his motivators? What is he afraid of? What are his challenges? What does he like? And that's how, you know, the character is born. And then I simply start typing, and then the setting, the story, the plot, everything followed from the character. And then I realized, okay, that's the way, basically, you know, let me think about a real character. So my characters are realistic, I would say. uh, they are fictional because I combine characters, or sometimes even if it's a real character, of course, the setting, the dialogue, everything is different. But when I started writing about realistic people, okay, I realized that, you know, every day so much goes on in life. Somebody might be some smiling, but you know, that might be on the facade. A lot of things might be going on inside, which people won't know. So let me actually pen stories on what goes on inside. Let me, you know, think about a character and see what I come up with. So that's when the genesis was somebody telling me that don't you write, you know, stories about Indian people. And then when I started, you know, with realistic characters. And then because I was writing every day, I realized within a short time of 2 months, I have a bouquet of stories, which were all there, you know, the platforms from Story Mirror. I had expanded to other platforms also by then. And the kind of feedback I'm getting, and then I'm like, okay, for some of the stories there is a common pattern, okay, like little bit of humor, realistic characters, everyday setting, and the twist at the end. And I am like, okay, when I saw the patterns emerging and readers really appreciating some of the stories that are out there, and I'm like, okay, one story being there, let me sort of bring it all together and put it in a book. And that's when I thought about, you know, the title. And I have written a lot more stories, but of course not everything is there in the collection of A Slice of Life. I thought about, okay, what are the stories I should include here? And then, you know, I also, mostly I am actually a thriller writer. That's what my forte is. But there is not there are no thriller stories in A Slice
Yeah.
of Life. So I, you know, kept it to, because I was writing mostly about realistic people, so I kept it to the broad theme of relationships and love with a tinge of humor. And that's when, you know, I decided, okay, which story should come first, which should go next. And that's how, you know, I had this book that we are talking about now.
I must say that the characters are actually very real, and you have a knack of observing people, because I think I have read 3, 4 stories still, and the immediate reaction in them after reading them is that this could have been that person. You know, I know this person, I have seen this person, or it could be that person whom I've met there. So that was very interesting to see in your stories. So Smita, we would like to know, why did you choose self?
And Namrata, you are not the first person who is telling me this.
Okay.
The- So, okay, you asked me about self-publishing.
No, you please continue. I think the screen
you
froze in between.
know,
Hello?
okay.
Yeah.
No, so I was saying that you were not the first person to tell me this. There are others who have sort of reached out to me and said, you know, I could relate. And yeah, was that me? But I don't know you. So that has also happened. So
Yeah.
a lot of people are finding the characters very, very realistic and relating to it. But now coming to your question of self-publishing, okay, I actually tried out, you know, sending query letters, and I did reach out to traditional publishers, and I did get interest from a couple of them, and I had a contract also. But the thing is that I realized that the timelines that they were giving, okay, it was like way down the line. Somebody was saying 9 months, somebody was saying a year, somebody was like, okay, we don't know when our publishing editor will get free. When the person will get free, they will contact you without even giving a time commitment. And for this short story collection, which also, some stories are about the pandemic, some stories are about the situation in the corporate world. I thought, if it was to come a year down the line, many of the stories would lose their recency effect. And then I thought, for a short story collection as an author, it didn't make sense to me to wait that long. Okay. And I come from the corporate world where the mantra is refresh, reinvent, and be agile and all. And coming from, when I think about those principles, waiting for a year when the manuscript is ready and an avenue is available. And I knew anyway, for a new author, you need to have a marketing budget, because even the traditional houses won't spend much in marketing you because you're an unknown this thing. So looking into all that, I simply decided that I didn't want to wait that long for this short story collection. So let me anyway, because I already had an experience in KDP before due to a lost identity. By that time I didn't know, okay, how to bring about a paperback in self-publishing. But looking at the Kindle experience, I thought if I could do that, now I could definitely do this. And that's why I decided to go for self-publishing. One, the ease; second, the time period involved. Whatever people were saying, it will take 1 year. Once the manuscript was ready, it took me 2 months to bring this out. So definitely, lead time was a big factor. That was the reason, actually. You could say that I was impatient. I didn't want to wait.
So how was your experience? How would you rate it?
So I would say, self-publishing does has its pros. It also has its cons. Okay, I have so far been satisfied because one, Kindle thing I handle myself, and it's actually a very easy platform. It's not complicated. You know how to type soft word, you can get your book out in Kindle. Okay, it's actually that simple. Secondly, even now there are a lot of self-publishing houses available to bring out the paperbacks, right? And if you are informed, like, I myself, okay, what are the different avenues available when you say self-publishing? Okay, what is ISBN? Which are the houses which give ISBN? Okay, how much time does it take? I reached out to, different self-publishing houses also, apart from Notion Press, which is the one which finally brought it out, brings the best value. So I would say, if you have the time and you sort of have a marketing budget, self-publishing will actually work better for you if you are a new author. Because then, if you go for a traditional house, you're one amongst the many, and they will have a lot of books in their bouquet. When you're self-publishing as an author, you have ownership in that, and you will actually, bring it out soon. So I would say, for the first book, I would actually recommend someone, if you have the time, you have the budget, to do justice, to create your own brand, somebody should go for self-publishing. That would, based on my experience, actually, that would be the advice that I would give someone.
So your collection is, your collection has stories about everyday people whom you come across in various walks of life. Is there a particular story which is very close to your heart from this collection, or any that you have written that for various reasons has been very special to you?
So you mean story out of this 18 stories that is there in this collection?
Yes.
Okay, so so I would say the other side. That's a story in the section what's in a relationship. What a relationship, actually. So it's something that I have experienced. The story is set up in the corporate world, and it's actually looking at the adage that the grass is always greener on the other side with a different lens, right? So
Yes.
people might say that, you're very well to do, you have everything, people might envy you, but the neighbor's envy can actually be your sorrow. So that's something that I have seen, I've also experienced myself while being in the corporate world. So I would say that is something that, I mean, I relate to it somewhat at a personal level. So that's a story which is very close to my heart.
We would love to, listen to you read some portion from your book. Would you like to do a reading for us?
Sure, Namrata. Maybe you would like to ask the attendees who are here which of these stories they would like to me to pick up, or maybe you can pick one amongst the 4 stories that you have read, and I could do a brief reading of that.
I actually, I'm very curious to know about this story about 2 people who remain in touch for 35 years without talking. I'm yet to reach that story, but that's a brief that actually had my interest very, it had clicked my interest very much there. Yeah. So I would love to hear something from that.
Okay, actually, one of the very popular stories, like the reviews that I was reading, many people had actually mentioned that this could be, that I could contemplate developing it into a full-fledged novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the book that I have with me. So let me, just read a page from Forever Love. Okay, so this is, in the form of letters. If you have seen, I know you haven't read it, but if you have seen it, you would know. So this starts with year 1. So, dear Surekha, it felt good to read that you have settled down in your domestic life. It takes time to our family and home for the rest of her life. The impact of marriage on a girl's psyche is incredibly underrated. I know that 2 months ago, it was heartbreaking for you to get married against your wishes. God knows how painful that was for me as well. Don't hold this against your parents. They wanted luxury, living in a tiny 1-room apartment. Do not take out your frustrations on your husband. Rohan seems to be a good man, from whatever you have told me. Not many men will give their wives the time and space to adjust to a new relationship the way he has. You are lucky to have him. As for me, I'm not going anywhere. I will always be there for you. I will continue to send you an email every day for the rest of my life and wait for your reply. We can meet whenever you want me to. However, do give me some notice. Living in a different city in the other part of the country means that I won't be able to come today if you want me to. I miss you. Will wait for your reply. Keep smiling always. Yours forever, Mohit. So that is the year 1 of this 35-year-old journey.
That's very interesting, actually. I think I should now get back to reading that book again. So what's the most important thing for you while plotting a story, Smita?
So that's interesting that you asked me, Namrata. I have now stopped plotting my stories. So that's what, okay. I don't plot. Initially when I started like the Lost Identity, the short fiction, that was a plot. Then the 2-3 stories I wrote after that was a plot. And then I realized that, when I do an outline, I do a plotting, I feel constrained to stick to that. And I know, I mean, conventionally writer do use a plot and it would have its advantages. And I do use outline and plotting for my non-fiction work. But as far as fiction goes, I don't plot. So the most important thing for me is the character. So, when I sit down to write, I just open a blank page on an MS Word document, and my fingers go to the keypad, and whatever is the first letter that comes to my mind, I start typing. And when I do that, I think about a character, that okay, who am I going to write about today? Is that going to be an uber rich man, or is she, a housemaid living in a society? I mean, that's how so it starts. So the thing I think about is the character. That is the most important thing for me. So based on who the character is, the setting comes automatically. Like the uber rich man lives in a palatial houses which has a lot of servants, in one of the metro cities, for example. So once I think about the character, everything falls into place. So what are the conflicts? What are the challenges? What are the positives? So it all comes to that. So I think of a character, and then, I start typing. And it's after that one word comes, then another comes, and another comes. It actually comes. Is somebody saying something?
No,
Sorry,
I
I
think
got an interruption.
somebody just entered and they were not on mute, I guess.
Okay. So yeah, I was saying that, so I keep on basically, typing whatever comes in my head after I conceptualize a character.
Right.
And it's as if, and then when I have one character, I will of course have another character. It stems from that. Okay. So it's as if, characters talk in my head and my hand just types whatever is there in my head. So that's how my writing process is. Okay. So it's the characters, because I could actually, in my mind, when I'm writing, it is the mind of the character. It is not my mind. I don't know what I'm saying makes sense, but that's how my writing is actually.
Right.
So once I, and the character arc also develops a lot in my head when I start writing. And that's how basically the characters guide me and the story gets plotted on its own.
That's very interesting to know. So, can you tell us a bit about your journey from writing to publishing to marketing your book, and also your lessons that you learned, the do's and the don'ts, and something that was a disappointment or something that was an unexpected surprise, and how it worked for you?
Okay, so writing, actually, one thing is that, writing is a craft as well as an art. You need to hone it every day, and the only way to do it is be consistent at it. Because, I've been consistently writing for the past 6 to 7 months. Now I'm a very, very confident writer, much more than when I started in April. So I think that confidence is very, very important. Second, while writing, like I explained to you about stories based in settings abroad vis-a-vis in India, you realize that, okay, as a creative writer, you have the liberty, okay? You don't worry about the result. It's basically you who have to be satisfied. But the moment you decide that, okay, you're going to publish a book, you also have to keep in mind that it needs to, the stories there need to resonate with your readers. And in order to do that, basically, you need to understand that what works with them and depict it in the same language. So for me, basically, I mean, when I write nonfiction, I tend to use very flowery words. I tend to use those bombastic words, which are generally not something that is used in everyday English, right? Everyday people like you and me, when we talk with friends, we use simple language. Okay, if at all we use English, mostly it's Hindi in India. Otherwise, even if you use English, it will be simple language. Okay, and not everybody is like a Sashi Tharoor. I mean, that might be an extreme example,
Yeah.
but yeah, people actually relate to, it's basically the words that resonate with them. So that's what, you should think from the shoes of a reader. If you are thinking about, bringing out a book, and use the same language. So that's why, keeping my natural tendencies aside, I've actually used very, very, conversational English in my book. So that's one thing that I learned, and that actually, took a lot of practice, going against my natural tendency and avoid those flowery words or long words. The second thing that, I realized that, especially in short stories, it's very, very important that you need to, every single word, every single phrase needs to add value to the story. And that's where, as a leader, I used to tell my team to cut out the fluff. And that's when I realized that it's very, very important in story. Okay, so if, I am talking about a situation where a housewife is bored, okay, I need not describe the kind of house she lives in and what colors are the, sofa cushions, and how many rooms are there in the house. you need not go overboard. It has to be okay. How does she feel? What are her emotions? And that's what, you need to be economical with words. You would find in the book, some of my stories are as short as a page. Some of them, like Forever Love, I think in print, it would go up to, 30 to 35 pages, which is the longest in this 100-page book. So that's what, every word has to add value. And if you think it from that perspective, that's what, okay, I mean, you should not write just for the sake of making the book long. You should write with an intention to, tell it as it is. If it takes 1,000 words, so be it. If it takes 5,000 words, so be it. But every word should be adding a certain meaning. Then the one thing, okay, that I advise with this book, I went for self-editing. And even though, I also edit, I'm also a third party editor having some editing experience, but I realize it's very, very difficult to be impartial with your own work. And even now, despite, a lot of drafts and all, with all the best efforts, still, when I read the book, there are some things from an editing perspective that I now see, have been missed out on. So that is something that I would, as a writer, there are certain things you should not cut corners with. One of them is editing. So of course, with me, I had the skill sets, but still, for the next book that I would bring out, I would definitely go out for an editor. I mean, that's an area where allocating a budget is worth having, because a third person will bring a different perspective. One is the reader, second, he is not so attached to your work as you are. So if there is some sentences that need to be cut, some stories that need to be left out, he will be much more ruthless with it and give an impartial view vis-a-vis you as an author who is anyway very attached to the story. So that's a learning, basically. The second thing is, I would say, patience. I have already found out, I told you, like when I reached out to traditional publishers, and I did receive an interest, but the time period was too long. Since this is a short story collection, I actually didn't mind waiting. I mean, I actually didn't want to wait, and I thought I should go ahead because I write every day. There is a novel that I am writing, and I would want to bring that out. Before that comes out, I wanted to establish my brand, and I didn't want to wait 1 year long to sort of for people to find me out as a writer. So that was a call I took then. But my next will probably be a novel, and for that I know I need to be much more patient. If some traditional offer comes, I would prefer to explore that, given the genre of the novel and because of the fact that it's a novel, rather than, and for that, I know, looking at this experience, I have to be patient. First of all, you can't expect revert to your unsolicited manuscript in a day or two. It takes months, if at all. And secondly, even if there is a positive referred, it will take time for that to fructify, on getting that book in your hand. And now that, this one was a short journey, and a good journey, a successful journey. But I know that, one can't be this impatient always. So that's something that, all aspiring authors, or even, authors who have published once and would like to publish again, they need to be very, very patient and wait their turn. They need to have that discerning eye that, okay, does this genre warrant self-publishing, or is it better that I wait for traditional publishing? So you need to, see every work differently. The past precedent need not be what you follow in future. So that's some of the learnings that, I would like to
Oh, but what about book
share with you.
marketing? How was your journey marketing your own? How has it been so far till now?
Oh, marketing, actually, Namrata, it takes a lot of time. Journey, I mean, that was the learning I didn't expect. And as a writer, especially if you're a new writer, okay, I mean, I'm sure Jeffrey Archer, and he's my favorite author, and whenever somebody talks, that's the first example that comes to mind. I'm sure he won't be spending that much time marketing. He does not need to. But to
Mhm.
Smita Das Jain will need to spend time in marketing, okay, because she is new in this world. And unless you put yourself out there, people won't know that, okay, there's this book that is there. But it takes a lot of time. Initially, I thought, that I will start a month before the book because and thanks to your blogs and Himalayan writing retreat, and from then reading certain authors, that I realized that the actual marketing starts before even your book is published rather than after, because you need to build that word of mouth. And if you start building it afterwards, there will be a period of a couple of months when the book is there but nobody knows it's there, so nobody will buy it. So and especially if you're new, okay, and I was completely new to this bookstagram community. I didn't even had an Instagram account like 6 months back. So as a corporate professional, LinkedIn was the only social media account I had. I didn't had a Facebook, I didn't had a Twitter, I definitely didn't have Instagram 6 months back. And when I read one of your blogs, I think first thing I did was open my accounts in these other social media platforms, because I realized that, okay, I mean, that is something I need to have. I mean, otherwise I will lose out the avenue to post, which actually is a bare minimum. So it takes time. It took a lot of focused effort to find out what are the right hashtags. How do you reach out to reviewers? Okay, so it took you should actually take time to reach out to those book bloggers who people follow in your genre. I would not say any book blogger. If somebody writes non-fiction, or if somebody writes horror and you are publishing a book about romance, so it won't help, right? So you need to reach out to the right people, request them to review your book, and then keep on at it, follow up, because obviously they have a long list. They also take time to come with their reviews. And after that also, the job isn't done. You have to be there constantly on social media, throw out some posts and all. So I thought that, okay, since I had spent 1 month before the book launch in marketing and reaching out to reviewers, mostly in research, reaching out to them, sharing the advanced review copy with them so that I have some reviews, close to the release of my book. I thought, okay, now it's over. But then I realized it's not, because the book is out there. You have to
Okay.
market because out of sight is actually out of mind, especially if you're a new author, and it's a continuous journey. So especially when you are self-published, I do think marketing is something that keeps you away from writing. So there are times when I felt frustrated because the time that I could spend in writing, I was spending in marketing. And I am like, okay, and marketing is not something that I love, writing is something I love. Okay, so there's a difference. But I'm like, okay, if I want to continue writing, okay, and I want more and more readers to write my work, this is something I need to spend my time in. And that's something I'm telling to myself even today, that, okay, you need to spend that time so that you write more. And if you do it now, then 3 years down the line, you need not do marketing as such, because by then, hopefully you would have established it. That's how I look at it.
That's actually a very impressive thing to say and consider, because a lot of authors don't attribute so much of importance to marketing. But while in today's times where everything is digital, that's what I ask people when they tell me that, my book is going to be in bookstores. And so why do I need digital marketing? I'm always like, well, how did you buy your last book? You saw it somewhere, no? You either somebody shared it on their timeline on Facebook or Twitter. There are very few chances that you're actually walking into a bookstore and noticing a new author, especially debut authors. You are reading the famous ones in the bookstores. For the bookstore also to give you importance, you have to become somebody there. So for
Yeah,
you as a beginner, you only have the digital medium to reach out to people at this moment. Then when you become, like you said, Jeffrey Archer, then you have bookstores, you have airport bookstores, you have the whole world open to talk about you without you talking about your work.
yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Smita, you've been mentioned quite a times about our blog and the journey and how it has helped you in your writing journey. Can you talk a bit about it? How, which blogs, or how actually did it guide you or help you? We would
So
love to hear that.
sure, Namrata, and I'm happy to speak about it. So actually what happened, uh, I told you that I did a course in Stanford. And
Yeah.
because of that, I'm part of writing groups and writing communities, but all of them are abroad. Okay. So there
Yeah.
are these, fantastic communities, like the Right Practice or the Creative Pen out there, which actually, it's a large community. People shout out for each other, cheer each other, and you get those tips on, okay, how to create an outline, how to plot, how to create realistic characters. I never knew there was something like it in India, and I was always like, okay, there's no, this sort of umbrella be an unifying factor. And one day I was just searching, okay, I was actually searching, what are the short stories competitions available, because the list that used to come up in Google always had international competitions. And I was wondering whether we have something like this in India. And then, one of the searches throughout your blogs, it was related, what are the writing competitions available? That was the first blog that I read. And then it said Himalayan writing retreat. There must be 20 links open in my laptop right then. Okay. And then, I read one by one, and then I came to your blog, and it was so much detailed. And I found myself going through everything, opening most of the links, that were out there. In fact, that's how I discovered Women's Web. And since then, I've been twice, I have been the author of the month at Women's Web. But that's how I discovered some of the platforms and what are some of the competitions, what are some of the avenues. And then that blog gave links to other blogs. Okay. And then when I read those other blogs, there were further links to other blogs. And traditional publishing versus self-publishing, okay, how to go about marketing your book. There was a blog about, book marketing. There was something, and it is in that blog that I first came across the term advanced review copy. What ARC was, I hadn't even heard about it till I read about it. Okay. Then there was a blog where writers talked about their experience in self-publishing. I actually didn't know that Amish was a self-published author first, before, the Immortals of Meliwa came out. So I came to know about this from your blog. So essentially, I would say, like, this short story competitions, the traditional versus self-publishing, marketing your book, those 3-4 blogs really, really stood out for me. And even this idea of reaching out to book bloggers and do that search, right? That also came from one of your blogs. So basically, after my manuscript was ready, the entire marketing, I would not even say marketing, the entire publishing plan and my marketing sort of step of activities was based on the tips that I read in your blogs. My journey would have been, see, the book would still have been out. I would not say that it would not have been out, but the approach would have been very, very different. That I can say, if I had not read some of those blogs. And yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy that something, that you had those resources, and somebody like Himalayan writing retreat is coming out, with those blogs to sort of guide emerging writers like me. And it's an asset. Not many in the country are doing it. A lot of groups are doing it abroad. But if there is an equivalent of that abroad, I think in India, I don't know of anything else apart from Himalayan writing retreat. I would say that.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. We are actually now working on a project called the Writer's Handbook, and we plan to make it like a writer's black book, and it will keep coming out every year. It will be having all the resources, like what are the contests that they can send, what are the magazines, who are the cover designers that they can hire or they can look for their book. It'll include everything, how, what, irrespective of whether you want to be self-published or traditional published. And we plan to keep it updated every year because everything keeps changing. What is relevant today cannot be relevant tomorrow. So the first edition we are targeting is 2022 April. And since then, like every April, we plan to bring out 23, 24, like that every year thereon. We are working on that as of now. So that's the plan, that you could have it there, you could have
That
checklists.
I think would be no, I think, Namrata, that's a great idea for emerging writers, because we sort of don't have that one checklist, okay, out there. So it would be actually a very big help. And while I'm at it, actually, this whole process of approaching traditional publishers and, how to draft, I mean, something called a query letter. Okay, I
Mm.
didn't know what that was. So that also came from your blog. So actually, I don't think you need to do anything additional. All those blogs,
Yeah.
wonderful, informative blogs that you have there, you just
Yeah.
need to put that in a structure and come out with this book, and it will be a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So the new things that we plan to add is like how to write to an editor of a magazine, how to write to an editor, a checklist of when you're approaching an editor for your manuscript, what questions should you be asking? When you're approaching a self-publisher, what you should know so that you are not being cheated, because the industry is now very open. There are a lot of self-publishing or publishers who are actually taking authors for a ride. So it's more like trying to be wary of what you should know, what you should be aware of before entering there, because your book is your dream. You're giving your dream to somebody to make it come true. So those are the few aspects which we are adding in that book. Again, we are thinking on those lines and all. So I would like to open the floor for questions. Does anyone of you have any questions for Smita? Anything that you would like to ask?
Hello.
Hello?
Madam, is it audible?
Yes, absolutely. You're audible, Nagaraju. Tell me.
Actually, Madam mentioned about one blog. What is that blog related to Himalayan Writing Retreat?
Actually, she's talking about all the blogs on our blog post. So we have blogs on traditional versus self-publishing. We have a list of traditional publishers. We have a list of self-publishing houses there. We also have how to approach literary agents. Sorry?
Blog name.
It's on the website. Should I WhatsApp you the link, Nagaraju? Once this session is done, I can WhatsApp you the link.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Smita, in the meanwhile that people are sending their questions and all, I have one question to ask. You've said you're working on a novel. So, is it a thriller that you are specialized in, that you are trying to explore, or is it still related to slice of life stories?
No, it's not a thriller. Okay, so that was also in the anvil. But this novel, actually, this novel was ready even before I wrote my book during the sometime in 2019, after I completed the course in Stanford, and then I kept it in abeyance for some time, and then after 6 months after writing it, I revisited it. So I have completed 3 rounds of editing. So there is still, I will not basically, of course, I will not release it till I'm satisfied with my self-editing. And after that, I think I'll also go for a third-party editor, as I mentioned to you. But yeah, it's not a mystery or a thriller. It's based in India. And again, against the backdrop of a corporate world, because that's the world I'm most familiar with, having come from that. And I don't know whether of course it's fictional, again, realistic characters basis, the people that I've met in the corporate world, with the woman protagonist at the center. So it's about those power play, those ambitious women, and a lot of things happening in the background in her professional as well as personal life, and how does it culminate. So that's what it's about. At least in India, I haven't read stories about strong corporate female protagonists. So let's see, how this one pans out.
We shall actually look forward to it. I think we have no more questions. So can we end the session here then? So I would like to thank all of you for being with us today. In case any of you is interested in reviewing the book, do feel free to reach out to us. And thank you so much, Smita, once again for sharing your time and your experiences. It was lovely talking to you about your book.
My pleasure, Namrata. I do wish that I keep on reading your blogs and I get more ideas for fine-tuning my publishing.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Smita and Namrata.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.